my experiences with this guy have been awful from the start. The first time I contacted him was in regards to, I think it was figuring out exactly what we had to do to send in our 30 days notice. And he had told us at that time that you need to send in the 30-day notice on the first of the month when you pay your rent. Or not necessarily the first of the month, but whenever the beginning of the rental period is. And there's nothing in the lease that says that. There's definitely nothing in the California laws that say that. We actually ended up getting in contact with people in the Fair Housing Committee Council counseling group. There's like a hotline you can call. And we had a couple of our friends who are in law school look at the lease and everything to double check that we weren't like missing something. Of course there's nothing. And the first time that he like got really unruly was when he said, oh, you need to turn it in on the first of the month. Like, obviously at that point we had lived in a number of apartments beforehand. This wasn't our first time renting, so when he said that, I kind of said, well, that's strange, I've never heard of that before. And like in that same tone of voice, and excuse me is what he says, and then I said, that's strange because and he starts yelling and going off, and that's when he like starts really like getting like elevating the situation to where it was completely unnecessary, and I was literally just commenting, that's weird, like I've never heard of this before. It wasn't even like, no, I'm not going to do this yet, but yeah, he's just a guy who has never really was never willing to let you talk if you disagreed with him, and never allowing you to put forth your 2 cents or your side of the story, no matter how much information or facts you had to back up your case, whereas he never offered anything backing up his case other than that's the way it's done and I've been in this business for 40 years. Which is really strange considering that if he's been in the business for 40 years, his property management company has zero online presence whatsoever. If you look up the address, it's a clothing importing company under someone else's name, I think his wife's, with the same last name. And I had even at some point asked him for his name for his records, at which point he paused and said, you already know the name of the company, bye, click. So I couldn't even get his first name until like some fairly heavy Google reviewing. I think the only real online presence I found for him was a single Yelp review, which was damning, by apparently someone who claimed not even to be like a tenant. It's like a friend of a tenant who just saw like how awful they were and how awful they treated the people who were renting from them. Gave them, the lowest of the low review. So yeah, no, he's just, if he's someone who's been in the business for 40 years, which I seriously doubt because he doesn't even sound that old, the way he's survived is by swindling his tenants. I can't think of another way that he could have done it because he's just really incredibly unprofessional and rude.